On the 7th of January 2026, the US published their new food guidelines. Here's a quick overview of some of the things that have changed. There is a renewed focus on whole foods and avoidance of ultra-processed foods and refined carbohydrates. Protein has changed from being 10 to 35% of a person's recommended daily allowance to 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. Saturated fat has remained at around 10%, so people should aim to keep their saturated fat below 10% of their daily calorific intake. And there has been some advice on how to structure vegetarian and vegan diets, which is always good to see. Now, the new guidelines have come in the form of a pyramid rather than a plate, which was what the last guidelines were. And that's caused a little bit of confusion. So I'm just going to run over one example with this. But where they've given the guidelines of saturated fat being 10%, they've put meat and dairy right at the top of the pyramid. So these are the foods that we should be consuming the most of. So it would be very hard to consume that amount of meat and dairy and get most of your calories from that while sticking to a 10% limit on saturated fat. So that's just one of the contradictions. I'll run through some other things that are a little bit of contradiction as well. So there was some almost scaremongering around plant-based diets, around vitamin deficiencies and stuff like that. If you are following a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet, particularly if you've got Crohn's or IBD, we often suffer from malnutrition and vitamin loss. So getting them through plant milks and stuff like that is always beneficial. So I always, when I buy my oat milk, it is a fortified oat milk with extra vitamin D and other vitamins as well. So plant proteins almost look a little bit inferior. They're not as visible on the pyramid, but we do want to be giving equal weight to both of these. So following a healthy diet would include an equal amount of plant proteins and animal proteins if you choose to eat them. I personally lean a little bit more to the plant proteins where I can, just for the added fiber. But like I say, chicken, fish, and any other lean meat really is something that I will use for my own diet. And then lastly, just to touch on this, alcohol has been moved to a kind of very loose definition of how much we should drink. So it's very much just don't drink too much. Now, from a gut health perspective only, alcohol can be quite damaging, particularly to the microbiome. I personally avoid it. I advise most people with IBD to avoid it. But if you are going to drink it, keep it to 2 or 3 drinks per week. And like I say, that way you're minimizing the risk associated with that drinking. So that's all from me. That's pretty much a summary of the new guidelines. Again, following them loosely, you're not going to have any issues. The guidelines are good. They are promoting whole foods. And let's just be clear about this, that the obesity crisis in the US and the UK now isn't being driven by people following the food pyramid. It's quite the opposite. It's people not following the food pyramid, not getting enough fruit, not getting enough vegetables. They are good guidelines. There's just a few contradictions and a few bits that are unclear, but generally good guidelines. Follow them and eat whole foods.